Hey, welcome to a new episode of the Roundabout cast.
Hey,
Who's here with me? Joe,
My
do your
name's
cabin
Joe.
boy shtick.
My name's Joe, injured cabin boy of the third crew.
He's in the infirmary. Joe, what happened to your hand?
I was trying to build the thing for my apartment, and the box cutter slipped and just jabbed itself into the bottom of my thumb.
Joe was trying to do like a Gus Fring roleplay situation and he cut himself.
There's been such a huge hole in my heart since I finished Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul.
Tyler, what you got? This is Tyler, by the way.
I'm Willer, by the way. I make fun of my friends for looking like pro wrestlers.
Tyler, I'm punching up. You're the most handsome guy. You don't get to.
this is true.
You don't get to do
but
that.
those guys don't know who Da Vinci is.
They do. I actually believe that they are very aware of how funny they are. Tyler looks like the Da Vinci twins. Slightly.
I do look like the Da Vinci twins.
Actually, not right now. It was specifically in that picture because your hair was a little, like, combed up a little bit.
Yeah.
So,
I do look like the Da Vinci twins. That's about it.
He's the Da Vinci triplet.
Do you think they planned the Da Vinci thing, or they went to that TikTok like we're just making stupid remarks, and they both had to...
It's interesting because we came to the realization the other week that I think all of us find those guys genuinely funny now.
Oh yeah.
And it begs the question: were they always funny? Like, was Da Vinci planned, or was it an accident, and then they kind of made the brand around it?
So they made a bunch of videos before Da Vinci of them answering those like knowledge questions, but they answered like really stupid questions.
Okay.
Yeah.
They've always been in the know.
Yeah, so I think like they both had like the weird improv brain connection of Da Vinci at the same time, and they just said it.
It was the great conspiracy of our time. What's Da Vinci planned?
And finally, we're here with Bradley. Say hi, Bradley.
Hi, Bradley.
All right.
Thank you, Bradley.
Okay, guys, let's go over some quickies that we've been doing. We call it our weeks, but it's really been our month because I don't think we've recorded in dead ass a month.
Dead ass?
Who wants to go first?
Is this podcast 68?
No way. The last one was 65 because we're out of the 64 mini arc where every podcast is 64.
The 364s.
Yo, have we talked about since we went to the Austin barbecue?
No,
God,
Tyler, you could do it in your quick talk.
Oh, okay. It was my quick talk?
You can start.
Why not?
Okay, so we did this thing called Austin Barbecue, and it's our second big gathering, right behind Game of the Year podcast that we do in person.
Whoop, whoop.
This is very nice.
It's
like
so big we've done it twice.
Yeah. Well,
Hey, in the last 3 years, yeah, we've done it twice.
to be fair, one of those years was erased like the Void Century. So
Yeah, it doesn't exist.
Quite literally, the weekend we went to barbecue, 24 hours after barbecue weekend, the whole world shut down.
yeah.
Fuck that.
Sorry about that.
It was our fault.
That's all, folks.
Ooh. But yeah, that was a good time. You pay $10 and you get like all you can eat barbecue and beer.
Yeah.
It's kind of a big steal.
It's incredible.
It's like Disney World of barbecue.
I guess, yeah. The only weakness is we were so responsible that weekend that we showed up way too early.
Yeah.
Most booths weren't started, but we started drinking at like 11 a.m. because when in Rome.
Yep. Also, 2 Switch games have been playing. I think I've just hit the over halfway mark on Kirby. Kirby's Big Wild Adventure.
Is that what it's called?
No, I think it's called Kirby Unknown. Yeah, Kirby Forgotten Lands.
Yeah. You weren't so hot on this at first.
Dude, like, it's so weird. So I beat Kirby Star Allies, and I was like, this is like a baby game.
Yeah. They're
I was like,
notoriously baby games.
Yeah, I was like, oh, this game is for babies.
Baby games are bad, but
this game has been debatable because, like, it's gotten like a little fuller, I guess. It has like weird spikes of difficulty. But I think the main complaint I have about it is they have a lot of fluff content. They're like hidden and mystery challenges, and it's like you do this entire level, and then it's like, oh, you didn't stand on top of the red mailbox, so you missed saving the one DVD in the level. You didn't stand on top of the red mailbox.
That goes back to fucking Kirby's Dream Land era.
That goes back to every platformer. Like, even as recent as me playing 3D World, it's like, oh, you missed this very hard green star, redo the level.
Yeah.
Yeah, Vor Kirby is cool, but like there's this weird game loop where like after like each level is pretty chunky in terms of like how long you're gonna spend in it. You might spend like about 10 minutes in each level.
Okay.
So they're chunky. But then after that, like you have these challenges that open up to get currencies, and then it's like you have to do these 2 challenges, and it might take like 4 to 5 minutes, and then you have to go back to the DDD town to like use those currencies you just spent. So you always have enough currency to do everything in the game, which is nice, but it's like that's been the game flow where it's like, oh, now I beat a level, now I have to do these 2 or 3 challenge levels, then I have to go back to town, and the user interface is really nice. The like it's really weird because the game runs at like 45 FPS or so, and then all the UIs go at like 60 FPS, even though that's not possible on Switch. So it's like, oh, this is so high quality, and then like you see this one DDD in the background like going at like 5 frames per second. So it's like, oh, you all have mastered your LODs really well. Game looks really good. It's got some decent power-up abilities.
That's something that impressed me in the trailers was the cool like upgraded abilities.
But okay, that's about it though. It's like there's 12 base abilities and you upgrade each one twice. So there's still only 12 abilities in the game.
12 feels really low for a Kirby game.
Yeah, and one of them is sleep and the other one is crash.
No, so those aren't real. Those are like once every 3 hours.
10.
What's crash?
Crash is a screen wipe.
Yeah.
So the second upgrade Crash might only have one upgrade. Because the first upgrade is called like Time Crash, and it actually is Zawirldo. Like this like big wave comes out from Kirby and the entire screen turns yellow, and then you can just run past enemies and they die.
I do like Kirby's Zawirldoing. That's pretty good.
And for each enemy you kill, Zawirldo lasts longer.
That's pretty sick. So,
that's pretty great.
In my mind, I think the next step for Kirby is that they make a Kirby character action game like a Bayonetta or Devil May Cry, but with Kirby. And I feel like this is the kind of stuff I would like to see.
Give Kirby a gun. That's all the fans have been wanting for the past 24 years.
Bradley, have you checked out this game?
What is this one? The
Forgotten Lands.
The new one.
Do I know Forgotten Lands?
It's the new one.
New Kirby?
Out.
Oh my god, you said Kirby. Okay, I was fucking tripping.
We know, that's what we
no, it was because earlier you said Kirby's Big Bad Adventure or whatever, and I like it crossed my wires and I forgot the name of the game. No, I'm actually waiting to try co-op at least.
Yeah.
The game's still gonna be easy, but it's fun. What makes me sad though is that co-op might be a step down from the last game. Because, like, in the last game, Player 2 had the option of playing as, like, any enemy, any ability type, or any of the, like, half-dozen plus Kirby characters that they added from past games, like Squeak Squad.
And notably, though, the DLC really beefed up that, like, multiplayer roster, right? And Star Allies.
I was about to say, like, I actually played more of Star Allies in the post-game, because they have, like, this boss rush mode with the same difficulty slider system that Smash Bros. Classic mode has. And dude, like when you crank that up, it actually gets hard as shit. And the thing is, the DLC characters in Star Allies had unironically cool movesets.
I mean,
you
had like
actually really badass.
You had like marks and stuff. Didn't you have the pink girl that's your avatar as well?
Yeah, her, and then I fucking loved the dude with the red hat from Squeak Squad. He was cool.
Oh, yeah. He looks so cool. I want to love Kirby. Like, If this one gets good DLC and I see it on sale, I might pick it up. But like, I think Kirby's just going a direction where it's too baby, and I know that's the point. But I think of Kirby Nightmare and Dreamland, you kind of like unlock the hard modes, which I think is what Bradley was saying about the post game of Star Allies.
Yeah.
Would also be the same.
Here's probably like a really good way to describe. This is my review for this game. If you have never played a Kirby game before, this is probably one of the better ones. If like Kirby Star Allies was your first one, this is still an upgrade. Like if these are your first two Kirby games, they are going to slap.
But if you're a little burnt out on the curb,
man, I play 2 levels and I'm like, I'm fucking bored. Like I can only stand play. It's really good. It's a really good brain off game where I don't have to think. But I play really complicated hour-long board games. I like to think and sit for hours on end. So, in hindsight, to counteract that, I also picked up the Triangle Strategy demo.
same.
The balls on these lads to just call the game Triangle Strategy.
Dude, they don't give a fuck.
Like, it has nothing to do with anything.
I think people trip too much about the name.
Me too.
I would see people on Reddit like fuming. I'm like, are you losing sleep over the name of this game? I don't really care.
It is hilarious. Like, I'm not mad about it. I'm just like, the balls on these guys. They just
like you're just like, it's funny. But I've seen people who like say horrible, mean things about
I have seen people be like, I can't believe they're actually calling it Triangle Strategy. Just like games are.
I'm like, really? You can't believe it?
Games are named dumb things all the time. Relax.
I just want to imagine that office workspace where they go, are we really calling it this? And they, like, the intern raises their hand and they're like, should we call it Triangle Strategy?
And like, get tossed off the building like that one meme.
Yeah, it's just like, come up with anything better.
What? I would love to see a bait Twitter thread where it's just like, if you think Triangle Strategy is a bad name, what do you think would be the better name to give it? And just see everyone else's recommendations, just how terrible they would be.
Okay, here's mine, Trinity Strategy. If you need it. Oh.
Yeah.
See, Joe's laughing. He doesn't even like mine. It's hard, okay?
That's what I'm saying. It's just like, does it have like a triangle system like old Fire Emblem used to have?
Depending on it's like depending on your choices, it influences like your politicking.
Yeah.
Tyler's probably got into the mechanic a little deeper than I have.
I haven't into the politic mechanic. Like, I'm still doing the tutorial prologue. I'm really liking it so far, just because I actually like the story a little bit.
Bitch, how? Like, here's the thing.
Because I'm waiting for, like, I'm anticipating a bomb to drop, and I haven't got there yet.
Yeah, me too.
It's not Heroes of Light. It's very political focused, in where, like, you have this really weird dynamic between these 3 kingdoms. One of them controls, like, the life source for their world. The other one is, like, the strong military state that controls all the iron to build stuff. Mm-hmm. And then you have, like, this weird third awkward diplomatic state that's like a negotiator between the both of them.
Yeah, one of the kingdoms is like, we have all the salt in the land. I was like, I guess salt must be really important because, like, it's an equalizing power in this world.
Well, salt's important in this world itself when it was a medieval era, because basically salt allowed you to preserve your food. It made everything taste better. So salt way back when was a huge resource to have. If you had salt, you had like a great trade empire, because everyone wanted it.
They're the only ones that have salt in the region. And then so this third region, like the very beginning, is they find a new deposit of resources in the third diplomatic land, which is going to balance everything out. But the strategy, I guess, is finding that balance, because you are the main character that I'm assuming you play as right now. I don't know if it's the whole game. You are just one of the lords of the kingdom, and your dad is dying, and so, like, you're not really ready to take over the throne. So that's why it has, like, this really cool BioWare dialogue system in it, where you have 3 choices when you interact with people, and they go like, your depictions of others have grown, or like your stratagem has grown, or Bob will remember that. But it's an anime game, so it's actually like Babyrus.
Because here's the thing, I think the dialogue is so freaking boring and flat, but I really want to see where that system goes. So it's like,
did you turn on Japanese voices?
Maybe that'll help actually. Which I'm usually a dub person.
10,000%. I was like, I played the game for about 5 minutes, and I'm like, they recruited the guy who does the narrations for the Nintendo Directs to be the main character.
I like
the Japanese voice.
No, like I'm sorry.
What did you say, Bradley?
Sorry. Go ahead, Bradley.
Oh no, I think turning to Japanese voices is a good idea because I don't know. Whenever I was playing like the first demo, I was like, I think like the concept of what's happening here is cool, but they sound lame while they're saying it.
Yeah, I switched to Japanese voices and it immediately got better. Let's see. It's awkward because here's a really good example. All right. So in the English voices, and I hope this guy is just, he's starting his career out. He's going to keep working on getting better because all of his previous background is additional actors. Meanwhile, you got the Japanese voice being done by the guy who did Giorno Giovanna.
Well, that's a sheer difference.
That's a huge jump in quality.
Or D-Luke from Genshin Impact's Japanese voice.
Okay, yeah, that's a good way to put the gap.
Yeah,
Okay, I'll try it in Japanese and see if I like it better. Because if I don't care about the story and I'm speeding through it, then or the decision's gonna carry weight when I get to them. That's the thing that interests me. And the gameplay's a little too slow as well. But maybe that might change.
Apparently, the Japanese voice actor also did Japanese Andy in Toy Story.
Oh, Andy-kun.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Oh, Toy Story 3.
Oh, a grown-up Andy-kun.
Yeah.
All right, Tyler, you've had your quick talk for 20 minutes.
He also did Chibi Flock.
Chibi Flock?
Oh, no, it is Flock's voice actor.
Oh, Flock from Attack on Titan?
Yeah.
Yes.
Everyone's favorite boy. Well-adjusted people's favorite character. All right, Joe, you do you.
Man, March was rough. It just was I got the flu and work was difficult. But big thing was
you did get the flu.
I did get the flu. It was not fun. But when I got the flu, I did a lot of things because I basically had the whole week off of work because I couldn't do anything, which was really upsetting. But so during that time, I read a lot of comics. I read the entire Scott Snyder run of Batman comics. So that's from 2010 to 2016, something like that. Includes the Court of Owls, which he introduced.
That's the that's the one comic I've read is Court of Owls and Aquaman New 52.
Yeah. I think the Court of Owls is probably the best part of that entire run, which is a shame because it's the very beginning. I think that entire run of comics I'd give a C, just a solid C. I think there's a lot of stories in there that I just didn't really like. Some of them that I did like, some really stupid moments. But I also read Batman White Knight, which is the story of the Joker becoming sane again.
Oh.
And I think the first chapter or the first issue and a half of this, I really didn't like it. It felt very forceful. It didn't feel very natural, but I loved how the story ended up wrapping up. Just in both its thematic means and just the big climactic battle. The big climax battle is they have to get all of the different Batmobiles from the different eras and have to do a race to get to this Mr. Freeze laser beam thing. It's just really cool.
I don't want to delay this, but what fucking context could it lead to where you want to get the 60s Batmobile to do something? Like...
They needed because the context is that the entirety of Gotham gets frozen, so none of the vehicles work except for the ones in the Batcave.
Man, fuck off. Come on. Why does Batman have 60s Batmobile? Like, I don't know.
I don't know, man. But I think the big star of that comic is actually Harley Quinn. It's probably the most I've ever really liked Harley Quinn in anything. I was really happy about how her character was in that comic. I also been reading Fables, which is a story about grim fairy tales having to escape their homeland because of a person called the Adversary coming in and started taking everything over and killing a bunch of fables and stuff. I've really liked the series. I read like a third of it back in college, and then I had to stop because comic books cost like $10 a volume, and I don't have that much money in college. But I've really enjoyed it. I kind of like the setting. I like the community aspect of them having to like, because they're like 300-year-old fables, they all remember of all the bad shit they've done to each other. So they have to deal with that now that they have to survive with each other, which I think is really interesting into how that goes back and forth and how like you have to learn to forgive someone in order for you to survive. I've been liking the series. I give that one a solid C+, because there's some things that like it just gets a bit too edgy or it gets very dragged on. I think the twist with the Adversary is very, very good. I thought the reveal of who that was probably one of the best.
Tell me the twist.
Do you want me to tell you the twist?
Spoiler alert for the next 30 seconds.
Yeah. The twist is that it's Geppetto, Pinocchio's creator. Basically what happens is that Pinocchio leaves and then people start coming to him and ask him to replace their lords with puppets that he controls. And so he ends up being like, well, I guess I'll just take over the world now, and just rolls out the whole thing.
Yeah.
And the way it's
super
described,
easy, barely an inconvenience.
Yeah. But I really liked it because it just wasn't something I was expecting, but I also thought it was a really cool way of like how quickly like power escalates and corrupts somebody, because he was just like a really nice old man, and then he got to the point where he was just super powerful because people just gave him the power essentially. But yeah, I've been enjoying that. I'm working my way through it. I'm over halfway done now, so I'll end up finishing it soon. A bunch of shit we're talking about. I'm trying to think what else. I finished a podcast called Dungeons and Daddies. It's super funny. I finished their season 1. Their season 2 is going on right now.
Hey Joe, do you know about Adventure Quest? I think that's what it's called, Adventure Zone. The McElroy brothers.
Yes, I do know about that. I tried listening to Adventure Zone. I couldn't really get into it. I just didn't like. I like the McElroy brothers, my brother, and me. I just couldn't get into their D&D podcast.
I watched a very interesting video by a YouTuber, Sarah Zed, of how that podcast became like heavily hurt their public image.
Yeah.
Because of just like real big controversies of like a mix of bad storytelling and making it not about Dungeons and Dragons and more like just making it like a play, like a radio play kind of thing.
Yeah.
Flubbing roles and then like being so woke that like it just constantly stepped on the toes that it was trying to stand up for. Like it was very interesting video.
That's hilarious. I should watch that video.
I'll link it to you. I recently discovered Sarah Zed. She makes very long, throw in the back, like a podcast kind of dissections of fandoms.
I've watched 1 or 2 Sarah Zed videos. The one I can remember was the one about the Onceler.
Yeah, I watched that last week.
Yeah.
That's me and Brother's boy.
What I like about Dungeons and Daddies is that ironically, like the focus on the Dungeons and Dragons part of it is not very heavy. It's much like an improv podcast, but with the dice telling you yes or no that didn't work. So it's just the players like working off of that, and I think it has a really good cast and crew. The DM is super good. Here's the thing about it: it's played by Freddie Wong, Matt Arnold, and Will Campos, who all made Video Game High School. So I highly recommend Bradley jumping on and listening to
Hell
it.
yeah. I remember during the that like live stream I was watching where that guy was watching the entire series at once whenever they came on. He's like, do y'all have anything y'all working on you want to plug? And they're like, oh yes. They seemed really excited about it.
Jimmy gets on it near the end, like he becomes a guest character that sticks around for a while. Anthony Birch, the Dungeon Master, is the brother to Ashley Birch. So she shows up every once in a while. I have never laughed harder at a podcast in my life. I listened to it when I was coming down to Austin for Austin weekend for the rodeo, and I nearly crashed my car because of one or two moments.
What an endorsement. Die.
Yeah. I almost died.
I did have a follow-up question about the Adventure Zone. If you had to recommend me a Dungeons and Dragons, like as someone who doesn't know anything, is there such a thing that I would enjoy with my limited knowledge, but also enjoy like the story and gameplay of?
I would recommend Dungeons and Daddies just because it's like I said, less Dungeons and Dragons and more of them just having a good time. Like to me, Dungeons and Daddies is the one podcast so far that's really like exemplified why I like playing D&D. Is that you and like 4 of your other friends sit around a table for like 2 or 3 hours and goof off, and you have a designated zone where you can do that kind of thing.
Those podcasts do pretty well. What if I had 3 other friends who did a podcast already?
Yeah.
And what if one of them made a pirate-themed adventure for me? Anyways.
But I recommend that one because they don't go super hard into it, into the rules, and they don't get bogged down in the rules. And like Anthony does a really good job of making up characters and keeping the ball rolling. Like that's the big thing about these podcasts is that like you have to keep it going because there's a lot of meandering in D&D, and they do a really good job of editing out all that meandering spot where they're discussing like inconsequential things, or they're looking up rules, or they don't know what's going on.
It's well edited.
Yes, and they're only an hour long, so they're really easily to digest and do. And like I say, it's just hella funny because it's just done by a bunch of people that do improv really, really well. But it's got a great setup. I never talked about the setup. The setup is about 4 dads from our world get sucked into the Dungeons and Dragons world called Forgotten Realms, and their kids get kidnapped, and they have to go find their kids and get them back to their world.
That's fun. I picture like King of the Hill.
Yeah, it's literally King of the Hill. Like the 4 dads from King of the Hill kind of go in there like, what the fuck are we doing? And like have to figure out how to get out. Like they end up with their van. So their van, they have to magically enchant to drive around. It's a Honda Odyssey. And
yes, pimping the Odyssey.
So what's funny is they make it so that the Odyssey like will run off of nice compliments. And so they're trying to compliment it. And then finally Freddie Wong goes up to it. It's like, guys, we've been doing this all wrong. And when they were doing compliments, they were rolling dice and they were just rolling really badly when they did it. Freddie Wong goes up to it and speaks in Japanese to it. It's like, it's a Japanese car. You have to speak in Japanese to it. And the DM's just like, you know what? That's pretty fucking clever. You win. You're good to go.
Nice.
Yeah. So I highly recommend it. And it's got long content. Season 2 has started, and I was really worried when season 2 started, like maybe they're not gonna be on the right foot. Maybe they because like you have to restart whole characters. Like, what's the character chemistry going to be like now? And it's just they took off, and it's been super, super good. Highly recommend. I think that's all I have for my free talk.
You had Psychic Mythic Quest, but you've also...
Oh, right, I did.
You've expended too much time on Dungeon Daddy, so I give you a minute.
It's a very good show. It's just community about murder mysteries, and then Mythic Quest is made by...
Dan Harmon?
Yeah.
Not by Dan Harmon. No.
Oh.
It's made by...
Charlie Day?
Charlie Day. Yes.
No. No, it's not.
Yeah, it is.
No, it's not.
I vaguely remember this. This seems right.
Mythic Quest on
it's
Apple
Rob
TV.
McElhenney. Not Charlie Day.
Okay, it's an always sunny guys in it.
Oh, Charlie Day. Okay,
Yeah,
Charlie Day doesn't star in it, but it is created by him. You're all right. It's Rob McElhenney and Charlie Day.
yeah.
As well as Megan Gone.
About the Live Lab. And that's
Yeah, it is. It is actually about the Live Lab.
Yeah.
Cursed show. All right. Bradley.
I can't
Man,
wait
are we
to start
still on
Dungeon Daddies.
Yeah, I know. Can you believe it?
My quick talk is after 13 Sentinels, I was really hankering for some more giant mech kaiju action. Went back into the Breach, played the hell out of it for like 2 weeks. Extremely fun game, should have never stopped. Also saw the classic Deep Impact for the first time. I just really liked it. I cried very hard, and it's very much like a just like fuck yeah humanity kind of movie. It's very fun. It's like it's supposed to be like a more grounded, realistic take on like what would actually happen if like a meteor / comet was heading towards Earth, gonna kill us all. And I don't know, it just follows like the efforts of all the world governments and engineers and like the cool shit they do to try to circumvent this disaster. And I'm just like, it's fucking cool.
Fuck yeah humanity is a good theme, because I also
Love
feel
it.
like 13 Sentinels is a fuck yeah humanity. It's also a fuck you humanity, but I think it ends more on the positive side.
But the one on Armageddon where they teach oil diggers how to fly a rocket ship rather than the rocket ship flyers to oil dig.
Don't you question Michael Bay, he knows best. What about Don't Look Up, where we just don't do anything about the meteor and then it ends really sad?
Damn.
All
right.
And then finally, I watched Nobody, the Bob Odenkirk action flick that I know Tyler's also watched.
Yeah. The movie's good.
That's a fun movie. Bob, what I like about it, first of all, Bob does everything himself, which is really good because he's like in his 50s.
Yeah.
So good on him. And what I like about it, especially in the start, is that like it's directed by the John Wick guys, I'm pretty sure. But
yeah.
Unlike John Wick, who is just like a machine who does everything efficiently and perfectly, at the start of the movie, because Bob Odenkirk's character's been out of the game for as long as he has, he actually ends up taking quite a bit of hits. Like it's pretty even fights, and he's outnumbered, and they do a really good job. And by the end of the movie, he is John Wick. So like I don't know if you like that aspect of it, Tyler. You could read into it like, well, the rust is off now, so he's back into like fighting shape. But
so the first John Wick, so I didn't get over John Wicked.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, dude, I loved it a lot. And even at the end, like he's got support, you know, so he can't do it by himself.
Yeah, let me tell you about the support Bob Odenkirk gets in this movie. This is the trio of action characters in this movie. One is the RZA, as in the music producer RZA. And the other is Christopher Lloyd, as in Doc Brown, and that's your RPG party.
Wait,
for this.
quite literally Doc Brown, or
Yes. Oh no, not
No, he's not. The character Doc Brown isn't, but it is Christopher Lloyd.
Great Scott, Saul Goodman.
This is like the Disco Elysium of a trio.
It's so bizarre, and it kind of works. Movie's got a good sense of humor. The last kill, I don't know if you remember how he kills the last guy, Tyler, but I thought it was really cool.
It's been a minute. I'd have to rewatch it.
Yeah, he straps the claymores to a riot shield and runs him down, and then they both get blown in different directions. Very fun.
I hope I can do that at my future job.
I know. Oh, dude, yeah. I mean, you could do it with C4, but claymores.
Oh yeah, that's always the best.
And yeah, Tyler did mention it, but he's going to be starting at Infinity Ward on Monday, so when the next Call of Duty is slightly different finally, you know who to thank.
Y'all give us shit in the comments about it.
Give us shit in the comments. But yeah, Nobody, very fun, good time. And then I am on the last boss of Elden Ring. It's probably what I'm doing right after the podcast, and putting a cap on my first playthrough of what is conceivably one of my favorite games of all time right now. It's up there for sure. It's up there with Bloodborne. Bloodborne's like a cooler game because it's got a cooler setting and cooler weapons, but like Elden Ring is unfathomably big. And like I've said this many times, I stopped commenting on our Elden Ring chat every time I just couldn't believe that the map extends like 7 more times than you think is even possible still. It's insane. Tyler, you have so much to go. Tyler's not finishing this, but I think Joe might finish it once his hand's healed.
I'm not sure 20 hours in, don't say I'm not going to finish it.
It's over, man. You took the break. That means you're not going back
to it.
The
game
game
will delete itself when you hit 125.
Stuff deletes from Tyler's cache if he doesn't play it for a week.
It's true.
I've been traveling. I did go skiing.
2 people have beaten Persona 5 before you, and they started after you.
By years. There's like they started years after almost.
Shut up! I'll get it to it. God,
I would love to watch you play it, but I think you're just gonna be terraring all week, so it's a rip.
Yeah.
I mean, you are too.
Am I? You can't.
Yes.
Well, I'll play a little bit. You know, I gotta do other stuff, but yeah, I'll finally get around to Terraria also this week, so that's worth noting.
Yay.
Holy shit! Like Elden Ring's so good. I do wanna fight this consensus that like you have to use summons because all the late game bosses assume you're using summons, and it's like they're definitely fucking hard. But I did them all without summons. I beat Melina, the fucking Blade of Miliqua, and 74 deaths, but I didn't summon. And look, people are gonna say, "Well, you had mid-ranged options, and I don't." It's like the game. If you do pure strength, you still have mid-range options. And also, I then went on to watch multiple videos of people beating her with just pure melee, pure strength. So I don't know. I think like now that I've ostensibly beat the game, like the one complaint I really have with it is that it is imbalanced. Where like if you don't use the summons, the bosses are hard but doable. But I think people just use them and kind of first or second try everything, and it's like they're a really cool system, but they are very powerful. So if I could have it my way, I would use them, but they would be a little nerfed. Because like the FromSoft games has always been a series where I don't have to hold back because the game is at a good difficulty curve for me already. It's not like Pokemon where I had to Nuzlocke it, or like Kingdom Hearts where I had to do the hardest difficulty and like sometimes even go to level 1. I feel like I had to do that with Elden Ring because I couldn't use a whole mechanic. And it's not like summoning players, because when you summon players, it's like, yeah, you're using your Furl-Called Fingers, or you're using like Embers or Humanities in the previous games. In this game, there are dungeons fully made to give you upgrade materials and new summons.
Oh, yeah.
So like it's integrated very deeply into the gameplay, which is where it's a little different. But that's not to say like if you have fun using them, you should use them. It's just like the game would get very easy when I did, and I like my FromSoft games a little hard. But yeah, it's great. What's up?
Where do I get the Mimic summon?
Mimic tier is in an underground area. You should look into Fia's quest line, or is it Randy's?
Okay, it's not when you beat the Mimic tier boss.
No, but if you fought that boss, you should have access to the zone. Keep exploring, and you'll get it.
I probably won't, but I wanted to make sure that the game didn't glitch out and didn't give me that item for some other reason. But,
no, yeah, they introduced you to the concept, which I later found one in a dungeon, and then I was like, I'm just gonna go in naked and then equip a weapon, and that motherfucker had to fight me with his hands. So
me and him scored off even Stevens.
Oh, I got an even Stevens with him, but
also, I was Sword Boy, so, there wasn't just, like, some magic bullshit happening while I was running around, so.
And for context, my playthrough is currently at 185 hours, which is much longer than any Persona game. But I explored fucking everything. I missed if I missed any dungeons, it's probably 1 or 2. I definitely missed some talismans from the smaller quest lines, but I did the major ones that have unique bosses. So I'm gonna platinum this game probably tonight. Like I'm gonna get the platinum trophy and beat it at the same time. because that's just how much I explored. All right, that's a lot of quick talk. Not so quick.
I hope you enjoyed the podcast. Welcome. Come next to podcast season 4, part 2. Right now.
Yeah, Tyler, why don't you tell me about Attack on Titan season 4, part 2? Which I didn't watch this one. I should, because this is a really good part of the story.
It's probably the best way to actually describe this part and what's been going on. It was actually Aaron the whole time. Always has been.
Jesus, yeah, like for real.
Did Aaron gaslight himself? Find out next time on the next therapy session.
Maybe.
Holy shit. I feel it's like I'm still on board with Attack on Titan being really good. We haven't got apparently to the thing yet. Cause it's still like I remember me and Willer went back and watched like season 3. And we watched all the first 3 seasons like back in English just to rewatch and like catch all the foreshadowing details and everything.
Yeah, and that was the point in my life where I was ready to put that shit in top 5 anime manga of all time.
Oh god, what happened?
I will say, you got by like what some would consider the best part. I would still say Shinganshina is my favorite part, but the part you just did is my second.
I'm really liking the circle that we're going through right now.
Actually, both of my favorite arcs are in Shinganshina now that I think about it.
It's so dynamic of a show because it's honestly they've been being like, oh yeah, we have to destroy paradise because they'll all turn into monsters, and then Aaron just becomes like, oh, guess fucking so, fuck all of you guys.
Yeah, well, maybe because I know Bradley is waiting for it to finish, so maybe be a little careful what we say.
Oh shit, my bad.
Yeah,
I thought Bradley was playing Genshin. I didn't think he was paying attention to me.
Hell no.
But like we're following our main Paradise Island people at the end of part 2, and they're
the main characters now.
Well, yeah, they've always been the main characters and the war heroes,
Yeah.
So it's interesting to see their morals be questioned here, because these are what the half of the main characters at the beginning of the show strayed away from, because they had those same morals to question.
Mm-hmm.
And now they're all questioning the same thing together.
It's like, but I think the story also kind of bends over backwards to put them in morally compromising situations for some of that. Like,
not really.
The thing with Connie, they made a really big deal about certain characters' deaths, and then if you go back, it's like, oh, these characters are the most minor characters, and then
they are. Like, the thing with Connie and what he has to go through, like, yeah, you can probably trivialize that as those being minor characters. But still, it's like...
The concept still hits, where it's like, we're having to do hard things.
Connie is not a character who thinks. He has to think now.
Yeah.
And it's breaking him.
They got to the thing with Connie and his mom, right? I really like that scene. And Armin.
Yeah. That was really good, and it's just, it is breaking them all, having to do this, and holy shit, who's the main girl?
Mikasa.
God, she's just replacing, not replacing, but filling in that spot as Levi is not currently present.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she is just. They are spending all the budget on her fucking rampage.
Now that it's done, I should watch it. I want to watch those parts.
Yeah.
I want to watch the... Did they get to the scene with a character called Ramsey? That's already happened, right?
Hold on. That's worth me checking, maybe.
Joe, do you remember like the flashback with Ramsey and then the Freedom panel?
No. We have not seen this character yet.
Okay.
I don't think so.
Wow.
Have they had the campfire scene yet?
No.
Yes.
Okay, they have.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's one of the best scenes in the entire show, in the entire series, I think. I think that's like the most key scene in the whole series. I think.
Controversial take from Joe, actually, because I know a lot of people were like, "Oh, really? You guys are gonna work together?" It's like,
but no, that
look at what's happening.
Yeah, like it's like I read that, I was like, this is so good.
The most heartbreaking scene in the show hasn't happened yet, I guess.
Nope.
To me, okay.
Probably not yet. We still have like who is? I'm not seeing him here in the list of characters with like Connie and Gabby and you like
Jean.
I think it's Jean. He's like the one who wanted to stay in the interior. Yeah, Jean.
Yeah.
So like Jean during the campfire and Reiner, like their counterparts with each other is just really good.
Reiner's such a great fucking character, and then you get to the last.
Get to the last chat, like Tyler. The thing about
if I told you what Reiner's final few lines of the show were, you would just do the hardest double take.
Wait, I kind of want to know.
You know what? I'll say the one. I'll say the meme one.
Bradley, do your earmuffs. Give me the meme.
The meme one is Aaron, what a man you are. And all I have to say is that, because I think that really paints the whole picture, even with what you've seen.
So,
Aaron, what a man you are. Oh, Reiner.
What a man.
All right, with that much context and like with what I know, I still, that doesn't make me mad.
No, okay. Anyways, we've been on this for a while. Joe, you were going to say something.
I mean, I hope it's not going to make me that upset because
his final scene is, I can't put to words because it's an action that is like, I can't believe this is the send-off.
Yeah.
I want to say, like, knowing this about me, I liked how Mass Effect 3 ended.
Tyler, I also liked how Mass Effect 3 ended.
This is the exact replay of like the last podcast we talked about.
We always do it.
Yeah.
And I know that line.
Yeah.
I'm still hoping.
To me, Attack on Titan, like, I think for like that campfire scene to me was like the quintessential, like, this is the point of the story. This is what we're trying to accomplish here in like a small little spot on the earth. And after that, I was like, I got pretty fulfilled in like the thematic senses from there. And I thought from then on out, up until the last panel of this penultimate chapter, everything was fine.
I think the most heartbreaking thing is actually season 3. Like, if you go back, like, once the show is complete, the most heartbreaking moment in the show will be season 3.
Season 3 IMO is brilliant, but
it is peak anime, and
with the full context, that is such a cool conflict.
I'm getting goosebumps talking about it right now. That the fact that now Bradley has seen season 3, correct?
Yeah. He's watched the first few of 4, right, Bradley?
Yeah, like the first like 2 or 3, and I was like, oh my god, these are the best fucking episodes in the whole show.
That Flock exists in season 4.
Pretty cool.
And Erwin Smith does not.
Yeah.
Breaks my fucking soul.
Okay, at least Tyler has humanity.
Yeah.
Like, that's what... Like, I hope you love the ending. I'm just glad that you're not insane.
Yeah.
Yeah. I hope I enjoy the ride. That's what I want.
And because here's the thing. A majority of season 4 part 2, people were already shitting on the story. As of that, like, everything in that season people didn't like. Me and Joe were actually still enjoying that stuff, so I think you will too.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck the community. I don't give a shit. They have bad opinions.
It's just really frustrating because it's like, it's one of those things where like the ending I think was basically given to the author on a silver platter of like, this is just how you need to end it. It's I can't conceptualize, like, it just really needed a simple ending after everything that happened.
I agree.
And like, then this last chapter is just it's so bizarre of a choice for
And then I remember the bonus pages they added. So the cool thing about the last chapter is that me and Joe didn't like it, and then they added pages for more context, and the context ruined it more.
No way.
It actually made me feel really bad, like the bonus content.
It was like Bradley when you read part 5's ending. You're like, oh, there was a mistranslation text. I bet I should read
and the actual translation I liked even less.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Me and Joe read. Oh, Tyler, I'm gonna have to cut you off if you're cool. Just progress. Just give your wrap up thoughts.
Whatever.
No. Yeah, give your wrap up thoughts.
I'm along for the ride. It takes a lot to ruin something for me.
Yeah.
I think, despite however the ending may be, the ride has still been so much fun that I can't hate it.
And that's the thing. I think now that I've healed a little more, I can still look back at Attack on Titan as like a solid A tier. Like, it's no longer that top 5 for me, but I still think what Isayama accomplished with that story is very amazing. Actually,
yeah. I just think back to Willer and I's like character tier list right after we read the last chapter, and there's a moment where Willer and I are in silence for like a hot minute, and then I respond, and Willer's like, "Oh, thank God."
Well, I mean, Tyler has the context for that character now too,
not fully,
I guess.
Yeah, I think that comes in much later.
I was like, I think Joe. It was like a silence. Like, is Joe about to defend this character that's arguably the lowest in the list? What matters is Zeke and Bertold are top 2.
Yeah.
And that's all that matters. Okay. Joe, we read A Man Called Ove. So fun thing about this book. I read this book because once upon a time, a little YouTuber known by Murphy Napier, or Napier, however she goes by, was a booktuber and not a One Piece tuber. And back then, I would follow her because, first of all, her enthusiasm's contagious, and she's also very well spoken. So it was very cool to get even books that I didn't really know. It was cool to listen to her talk about it. And out of those days came the realization that if I do get into audiobooks, I need to check out A Man Called Ove and Lies of Locke Lamora, which is going to be my next after.
Ooh.
Joe, you want? Yeah, okay, cool, bet.
Yeah.
And now that Tyler and I have finished Stormlight Archives for the time being, which we should talk about with Ryan soon, Tyler, we need to do that maybe the week after next week or something. I decided to finally check out Ove, which is a nice 10-hour audiobook. So it's really nice, especially if you're doing it at 1.5 speed. And it's fantastic. It's a very good book. Joe, do you want to give like a little synopsis of what the book is?
So the book is about a man named Ove, a 59-year-old man.
Is he 59?
He's 59.
Oh my god, that is severely younger than I thought.
Oh, yeah. I think the book was written back in like 2010 or something like that, or early 2000s. So like he was in like 1940s and what. He's old, but not that. He's not like 80 years old.
Oh man, I went the whole book being like, this motherfucker is fucking 78.
Yeah. No, what makes Brune's situation even worse that you think
that's
about
really sad. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's about a man named Ove. Should I say like the whole like premise of it, or
let's give him the layer 1 premise and then the layer 2 premise and then
so basically he wants to kill himself.
Yeah.
It's about this old man that like he lost his job, his wife died of cancer like 6 months ago, and he has nothing left to live for, and he wants to kill. He's a grumpy old bastard. And he just wants to kill himself to be with his wife. But what ends up happening is that he kind of, A, is just really bad at killing himself. And B, he, like, as much as he hates it, he has to care about the people that is in his community.
Because Ove is the old guy in your community who goes to the community meetings. He wants to be president of, like, the neighborhood watch. He wants to make sure that people are upkeeping with trash laws and parking laws.
He's he's restoring the town center in Stardew Valley.
Yeah, except like no one gives a shit. They're like, Uva, just relax, leave us alone.
And I think that's kind of like his character is that like no one's taking responsibility, so I will take the responsibility.
Uva, like, what's so amazing about this book is how well you understand Uva and where he comes from, despite him being so different than you. You connect the dots of how he became the person he is, and it all makes tremendous sense. Like, he's the kind of person who thinks that things need to stand for something, and people need to live up to their word and like, be responsible, and, like, and the way he views, like, and he rants about stuff like gentrification of the neighborhood and, like, people with business suits moving in who drive BMWs and don't have any morals or standards. And it sounds like...
You're not allowed to drive vehicular vehicles on this street.
Like, Uva, like, is the kind of guy who analyzes people by the car they drive. But even worse is if you change the make of car you drive throughout your life, Uva will very much look down on you, and it's actually a very pivotal part of the story where it's like,
oh my god,
if you go from driving a Volkswagen to a BMW, he's going to really lose respect over you.
He says these hoes ain't loyal.
Yeah,
yeah,
He thinks it says a lot about you, and like you're someone with flimsy standards, and you can.
Oh my god!
And you're like, that's nonsense, Uva. And then you get into the flashbacks that explain why he thinks that way. It's like, okay, Uva, maybe you're onto something.
The flashback that's about the car, because they mentioned this Volvo BMW change for a long time. Jeez. And they get into the flashback of the car, and like everything clicked in my head about this whole relationship he had with these cars and the person that changed his car and everything. It was one of the best sequences I've listened. I listened to the audiobook because I needed something to listen to while I painted.
Which J.K. Simmons reads the audiobook very well. Yeah. It's a very good job.
Yeah. Dude, I'm the more audiobooks I listen to, the more I realize how like big the
reader matters.
The reader gap matters.
J.K. Simmons was like the perfect choice for this because like he's able to like convey Ove enough of like a grumpy old man, but then everything else like he says very clearly and clean and like.
And he can also be obnoxious for the people that Uva perceives as obnoxious.
Yeah. Dude's really good at his job, and which we should be surprised about because he's a voice actor because he's in Legend of Korra and everything.
True. He's Tenzin, right?
Yeah.
So the structure of the book is a lot of like Uva failed suicide attempts intercut with Uva's life story.
He basically like as he's dying gets flashes before his eyes of like his backstory, and it cuts in between those. Does that make sense?
And it's really another pivotal character, probably the secondary main character of the story, is Parvana, who is a pregnant Pakistani lady, I believe, who moves down the street with her Iranian lady who moves down the street with her goofball like techie bro husband. Who it's cute because like she's very intrusive, but she can tell Uva needs something. Like there's a scene where Uva tries to kill himself by car exhaust. It's like his second or third attempt now. He's like, well, people can't make fucking ropes anymore, so I can't strangle myself, and a gun's a little messy, so I'm gonna do car exhaust. And she walks in, and like the whole garage smells of smoke, and that's when I'm like, Parvana's picking up that something is very wrong with Uva at this point of the story.
My favorite is when they have the cat, and she's like, oh, my kids are allergic to it.
And then she gives it to Uva. Parvana's fucking brilliant. What a good freaking character. And she and Uva both like poke fun at her husband. Like they give each other looks. It's like the one cute thing Uva has with a character for a long time in the story is when he shared these glances with Parvana of like sympathy for being for her husband.
Yeah, for being married to this man. This book is just like it's a very much a black humor book. Yeah. But it also has these like moments of just like heartwarming and just like pure depression.
The way Frederick Bachman explains Uva's love for his late wife Sonia, I love Sonia. Just the way those emotions are portrayed, it's like they're beamed into your head. Like you can completely, like the prose and just the way it's all played out is just wonderful.
There's a line that's like. to Ove, the world didn't have any color, but all this color came from her. It was something like that.
It was like the world's devoid of color before she met him, and now that she's gone, he would agree and that there is no more color. We completely butchered it, but it's a fantastic line. I highly recommend this book to Bradley. I think you would freaking love this book.
Yeah, sounds up my alley. Is it on Audible?
It is on Audible.
I almost cried the last chapter of this book because I think this book ends perfectly.
It's a very good ending.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man, the thing with Jimmy too, I really like. Anywho, that's A Man Called Ove. On to Lies of Locke Lamora in the future, and then we'll see if Murphy's 2 for 2 as far as books that I've self-recommended from her.
Yeah.
I mean, she likes One Piece, so she can't be that wrong.
Can't be that wrong.
Alrighty then, Joe, do your Warhammer thing. Everybody take 5.
Okay. All right, y'all can just turn off while I just fucking rant for the next 30
If no one's got you, Joe, I got you. I'll figure out some question to ask.
So Warhammer 3 came out a month ago, and I didn't want to do a review immediately afterwards because there's multiple campaigns, so I wanted to go through as many as I could and get an idea of like how the rest of them play. The TLDR of Warhammer 3 for me is that at this moment, I don't think it's as good as Warhammer 2 is at the end of its life cycle, but it's set up to the point where it's going to be phenomenally better than Warhammer 2 at the end of its life cycle. Does that make sense?
He's still growing, like they say at the end of Skull Island.
Basically. But so Warhammer 3... how do I even start with this? Warhammer 3, the big thing about it is a demon invasion. Half of the factions in the game are demon-based factions. So it's very much just like the end of the world is coming and you have to go stop it. It's brought on by the fact that a human race's god known as Urson gets mortally wounded and kidnapped by a lesser demon that's trying to ascend the godhood. And so depending on which faction, you are either trying to stop this... You're trying to stop this demon from ascending godhood and take the bear for yourself for your own power, or you're trying to restore the bear back to its pantheon and bless your land again. The biggest thing about this game is the fact that it finally has the tutorial Total War has needed for the past 10 years or so.
It's just a robust tutorial, or it's getting to stuff that the others didn't get to.
It's a very robust. It's very robust tutorial. So the way Warhammer or Total War works is that it's just a big open map civilization, and you're kind of just here's your starting city. This is your goal. Go do it. Figure it out your own. It's very sandboxy. Just figure it out on your own. Not a lot of hand holding. What the tutorial is that it's a very much a narrow scope where you start in a canyon, and it very much holds your hand the entire way when you play it. And it explains unit formations, it explains campaign mechanics, growth, income, how you use cavalry, how you use archers, how you use sword and shield guys. And so it does a really good job of just going into all those concepts that lets you, when you go into the bigger campaign, you have an idea of how you're supposed to win the game at that point, rather than be send your dudes forward and charge forward and build more dudes. It's also very narratively focused. It's basically the entire plot of Warcraft 3, which I thought was hilarious. But it's really good. It's the best foundation they've made for a Warhammer game. All the factions feel completely unique. Every time you play a faction, it's the equivalent of picking up a new weapon in Monster Hunter. You have to completely relearn how you're going to accomplish certain tasks, which is really cool. But the thing is right now, and I say this on the eve of them updating stuff and fixing a lot of the complaints people have. Right now, the campaign really, the current campaign really is very biased to a certain playthrough that isn't really like what Total War is about. Total War has generally been about expanding your empire, whereas this campaign at the moment is very much like find like 3 areas that you control really well and then don't move from them. And so that's which sucks because you really want to be going out and fighting all these different factions instead of defending the entire time. There's also a number of performance issues. My computer has like a trouble running this game, and it's kind of why I haven't put more time into it. It's just because it's just such a slog to play that I lose frame rate all the time. The game will crash when you alt tab. It's just very frustrating to like start playing and just keep it going. But when I do play, I love it. It's tons of fun. Like I love every faction that I've played so far. They all play super different, unique. I don't want to go into how I would go into how each of them played and how I felt about them, but I don't want to spend that much time on this game because it's been forever. But I'm really excited where it's going to go. I'm really excited for the content that's going to come out. It's exactly where I thought the game was going to be when it came out. And right now, the biggest negative about Warhammer 3 is its community, because they're all being babies.
Yeah, you were saying, like, how come there's not new content when you just said earlier that they're refining things, right? They're fixing the big structural problems.
Yeah, like, so it's been a month and a half, which has been a while, but it's like, I don't understand the thought process, because it's never been like a new content every month game. It's never been that way. It's
also,
like usually
that's 3 sprints. Fucking relax.
Yeah. Like I don't like, oh my, it's just so frustrating because people are like, so a big appeal of the game in this series is that they will come out with a map called the Mortal Empires or Immortal Empires map. That's like the combination of all 3 games. Warhammer 2 had this, and it came out like a month and a half after launch, which was to its detriment because it was not optimized well. One of the factions wasn't coded correctly, so they had to recode the entire faction, and you could not play it in the game. And so it was yeah.
Where was QA there? What happened there?
So what happened there, for a quick story, is when they announced Warhammer 2, they said, like, if you pre-purchase Warhammer 2, we will give you the last DLC for Warhammer 1 for free, which was an entire new race and faction. So it's like, oh, okay, I'll pre-order this and I'll get the thing I was going to get either way. So I saved like $10 really. So when they built Warhammer 2, the faction they added at the very end, like, everyone assumed they had upgraded the coding for it for Warhammer 2 and integrated into Warhammer 1. No one actually did that, so they had to redo the whole thing, basically. It was just wild.
That's a mess.
They didn't do that this time around because, like, we'd rather just make sure everything works. But the point being is that, like, people are expecting these big overhauls immediately, and that's not how this life cycle of the game works. Creative Assembly is a very, like, anti-crunch. They've been very good to the community and to their
employees,
to their staff. Like, they do a hefty amount of space between their content, and they take their time to look at stuff and balance stuff and make adjustments in a timely manner. I feel like a month after launch, and they're making some pretty significant changes to the way you play. Is pretty good. I'd say that's a big step forward, and I'm not expecting like anything huge. So it's just kind of frustrating to like go into Total War Reddit and people are comparing numbers from Warhammer 2 to Warhammer 3 currently, and how, like, look how close they are. Why isn't there more people playing Warhammer 3? And I guarantee you, if you look at the numbers for Warhammer 2 during the middle of its content drought, it would be the exact same thing, where there's just not that many people playing. Also, it came out the week before Elden Ring came out, and that thing's a monster. So
that's 2 monsters, right?
Yeah. It's just, that's my big frustration with the game, is the community has gone bonkers over nothing. But I'm excited for the update that's coming out tomorrow, because they're going to optimize the game a little bit. They're going to change some of the fundamental strategies of the game, rebalance a lot of the units so some factions feel better to play with on the battlefield. And like, I don't think a month is that long of a wait time for a game like this, unless you quite literally are playing every day.
I'm guessing content drops are probably pretty sizable too, right?
Yeah, like I said, like it's usually like 3 or 4 months between one DLC to the next DLC, right?
Yeah.
And
which is already pretty fast, IMO.
yeah, and the thing is, like, and I've mentioned this to y'all before. Every time a new DLC comes out, it's another like 20 or 30 hours of the game that I play, which is huge. I paid $10 and I get another 20, 30 hour game. That's crazy. Like, so I really like the game. I think the mechanics for all the factions are really, really well done. When the Immortal Empires comes out, it's actually going to be probably one of the best strategy games that's ever been made because of the way that each of the factions are playing right now. And I'm very excited to see where it goes. I just am very upset that like the optimization is not that great, but that also might be my computer's problem. Because my computer is 10 years old at this point. I haven't upgraded it.
Oof.
Yeah. So like optimization is a problem. I think there's some missteps in some design choices for the current campaign, but they're fixing those design concepts tomorrow. So really, I'm not that concerned with that anymore. If my personal opinion is for Warhammer 3, I would wait until that Immortal Empires map drops and see where it is then to pick it up. If you want to play a Warhammer strategy game, pick up Warhammer 2 and buy some DLC for that and play that, because I think you'll get a much fuller experience. But I think Warhammer 3, where it is right now, is primed to be really, really good in the future. So we'll come back to it again 20 times with every time they add something, basically. It's like my Genshin. Like, it's going to be where it is, and then every time they add something, I'm going to be super stoked of what they add, because they not only like add a new race, they usually revamp an entire other race as well, so they have new mechanics entirely.
It's like they add something, you gotta binge it for the next week or two.
Yeah, like
speaking of Genshin binges, Bradley didn't even talk about the new content. It must not be good.
So I've actually like gone back to my very first team comp that was like my mains. And I've been redoing them, re-optimizing them, and I'm like, oh my god, they could have been so much stronger than they were. Which is fun. So I'm like back to my roots.
Yo, that's nice.
Yeah, but like, and I think it's like, I don't want to like be comparing, like, I don't like comparing fandoms in like games for like content to content, but like Warhammer 3, the Warhammer series itself has had phenomenal like content and life updates to it. I am not worried in the slightest about it in the future. People are like saying the sky is falling for this game when it's not. It's just they need to wait, and they need to wait for the DLC to come out and wait for them to make the fixes they need to make. Because that was the other problem, was that they were getting content out without actually fixing anything. So it just made it so people would buy something and not be able to play the thing they buy because it wasn't working on as many computers as they thought it would. But I'm excited to see where the game goes. I give it a solid 8.5 out of 10. We'll see where it goes from there.
That was a bit Tyler of you. Yo, great game, amazing content, 30-minute talk, 8 out of 5, 8.5.
I mean, it is, but like I know it's going to be better. Like I would say Warhammer 2 at this point is like a 9.5 for a strategy game.
Hey Tyler, you want to do a quickie on ranking of kings?
Ranking of Kings over. If there is more content for the show, I would welcome it. But season 1 real good. If season 1 was a standalone show, good.
So it's not confirmed if it'll get a season 2 yet or anything?
It probably is somewhere on the internet that I have not.
A lot of fan art for it.
Here's my thing. All right. Mm-hmm. This show is kind of plot holy. I would say character motivations are very wishy-washy, and they go real quick.
Maybe you missed something.
No, there's like this one character who's like, at some point, he's working for the good guys, but then it turns out he's working for the bad guys because the bad guys made him a good bad guy, and then he saves the good guys, and the bad guy's like, oh, I know you loved them. It's okay. This is only the second time you've betrayed me. Don't do it again or I'll fucking kill you. And it's like, wait, this is the second time. Why? Like, what?
Why'd you let it happen 2 times?
Yeah.
Fool me once, you can't get fooled again.
And then he ends up like getting nearly killed off screen. And it's like, oh, does this guy really matter? Like, what is going on here? I don't know. That's me watching it from Wheeler's perspective, maybe. Like, what was even the motivation behind this guy?
What? Like, the base perspective is...
Yeah,
oh, that's a Wheeler,
I don't know.
Wheeler exclusive to care about the plot.
Yeah. So, like, watching it throughout, I don't know. It felt like watching it episode to episode. I felt like there was some weird plot holes, I guess.
Tell you what, I'll try to watch it by next podcast because I've been meaning to. And
being done with it, I feel like everything has been explained to me, except for the overarching world-building mysteries that they did.
which, I mean, that would imply a season 2. I mean, if the story didn't clearly end, then I think a season 2 is probably going to happen.
The main character is Bochi.
Yes.
And we have had a full circle arc conflict resolution in this first season. There are other plots developing around Bochi and the world, which is kind of like the main point, is like Bochi gets wrapped up in this huge plot accidentally. And it's like, oh shit, that was kind of big and expected out of nowhere because of the way we've been looking at Bochi, you know? I don't know. Like, I'm sure the story's still going on. I'm sure there's gonna like a Ranking of Kings season 2. Because of how popular the first one was. Like, if I look it up, it's like Ranking of Kings Part 2 release date was on January 6, 2022. Okay, the win, like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, nobody knows. Like, there's no news for it. I'm sure the manga's still going.
If it's based off of one, I haven't heard of that. I don't think it is.
Short novellas is what it's based on. It's a novella series.
Man, I could write a short novella.
Yeah. Regardless, I would be content with where everything ended. I would be like, yo, that's a lot of cool mysteries that got left like up in the air, but I still feel like our story with Bochi had a very good ending.
Sounds good.
Yep.
I'm going to do a little switcheroo. Let's talk about The Batman, since the four of us watched that together. And we're actually doing good on time, more than I thought, considering. Yeah, we watched The Batman when it came out in, like, the beginning of March, and now it is the beginning of April. So, goes to show you how much time has passed. I really like this movie. We went with, like, a group, and, like, only me and Joe, I feel like, walked out liking it. But over time, like, I know some of the big detractors thought about it some more, and they were like, actually, I did like that movie, so
this is a good movie.
It might be a grower. Actually, yeah, Bradley also liked it.
Mm-hmm.
What was everyone's experience with the movie?
I walked out of it thinking that was okay, and then by the end of the night, I was like, actually, you know what? It's a pretty damn good movie. There's just a few things I would really, really, really want to change.
I walked out of that movie thinking, like, that was really good, and I really, really liked it. I just think it was way too long.
Yes.
I like that movie so well, I'm going to watch it again. And when I watched it again, and I felt like that movie was very good. It's just too long.
I haven't rewatched it. I walked out thinking it was very good, and then I thought about it, and I was like, oh no, that was excellent. I think this movie really rewards you for giving a shit about the story and thinking about it.
Yes.
And,
which Batman fans will not do.
No, right. Batman fans are probably a little more.
Yeah, they're actually probably better than the average bear.
I know Tyler walked out saying that was a comedy.
Oh yeah,
the movie was really funny.
It was funny.
It had like a dark humor that I think people were like, "Oh, the movie has no humor." It's like, no, there was some. It wasn't like Marvel quippy humor.
Yeah.
I think that was a nice,
there
like,
was
refreshing,
straight up genius comedy level in that movie. I forget the part that made me laugh so much too. Unfortunately, since it's been a while.
I think one of them was the thumb drive joke. That's the one everyone brings up.
That's a great.
But there was another one that Tyler did say that also because it was like a cut. It was like Bruce or Batman was doing something, and as the scene was transitioning, it was playing like a radio broadcast. That was really funny for some reason. I don't remember.
I think it was when he kisses Catwoman. It like started doing this random radio broadcast that was like monologuing the kiss or something. And
it was like monologuing about Thomas Wayne, and then it transitions into like a thing about Thomas Wayne.
Yeah, it's like, my name is Thomas Wayne and I approve of this message.
Yeah, that's right.
It was his son kissing Catwoman. I'm like, yo, this is the funniest shit ever. Why is nobody laughing?
So like the take that this movie's too long, and I need to rewatch it. The thing is, I think every scene was really purposeful. I struggle to, like, even my least favorite scene. Well, except for the Joker scene, I think everyone can agree that scene could be cut. It's not like necessary, and it's just like the studio put that there for sequel bait.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I really hope the Joker is not the villain. Like, it's cool if the Joker is a minor character in this trilogy. I want them to do new major villains. Like,
I agree. A
lot of people have brought up.
I think every scene was very purposeful except for that one scene. It's just like, I think the second go around, because first time I watched it, I was very engrossed in this movie. Like I was all in it. I want to know where it's going. I want to know what this mystery is. I'm really into it. When I watched the second go around, and we're going to talk about probably a bit of spoilers in this, but the second go around when they introduced the concept of Thomas Wayne being dirty and corrupt, I think is, for me, when the movie starts to really drag, because all of that plot gets resolved within like 10 to 20 minutes of it being introduced. Does that make sense?
I mean, how is that a drag? Like, the next scene goes right into it, and then they immediately go after Carmine.
It's not just like that. They introduce the Thomas Wayne thing, and then Alfred gets blown up, and then he goes and confronts Carmine Falcone, and then he sits there talking to Alfred, and then Alfred talks to him about his dad. And it's just like, there was not enough time for that plot thread to kind of marinate and grow and like stick to you.
But that's looking like one layer deep, because those scenes also serve, especially the one in the hospital. Yeah, they're talking about that, but what that scene really is Bruce realizing that he still has weakness in him, that he still has fear, not about himself dying because he's emo brooding Bruce, but about losing someone he cares about. And that's really important to understand why he goes a little ballistic near the end of the movie, where he's like, well, shit, Selina's gonna die. Yeah. And I've very recently realized that I don't think I would handle someone close to me dying very well. I clearly still have that humanity still left in me.
And you're right.
Like, everything's doing a double duty, where it's like, it would be weaker, I think, with some of these things that people say could be removed.
And what I'm saying is that I don't think it should be removed. I think it should be rearranged in some way. Like, have the Alfred attack be a little bit sooner and have him deal with something while he's like thinking about that, and then come back to it later. Because to me, it's like you're resolving all of this in one go, and we've kind of like we've taken a slight detour from the plot before we get back into it. So that to me is where it dragged at that point, and then everything else after that I think is fine and great. But that to me is like the tar pit of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Why didn't they arrest Penguin?
Yeah, that's also a plot hole.
So no, the reason why they
is also right, and I agree with, but it's kind of silly.
Like, the reason they can't arrest Penguin is because at that point they're not working together. Like, they're going outside the bounds of the law by still working together. Because
Batman is a vigilante who probably did cause a shitload of damage during that car chase. So he can't be like, hey, look what I did.
And it would be like a fair knock against the movies. Like, that car scene was way too wild, but also it was fun. So we'll forgive it. But like at that point in the movie, Bruce had already done the thing at the police station, so now he's not actually working with the police force anymore. So the fact that he's still working with Gordon, you'll notice they stopped meeting at the bat signal from that point in the movie, because at that point they have to meet in like alleyways and still keep their investigation going. So all the thing with Penguin, it's like, well, we can't formally indict him and take him in because I can't let them know that we were working together, because that's going to stop our investigation prematurely, because I'll get fired. So, like, if there's reasons for stuff, what I really like also is, like, the story of the movie. Like, I don't know, but there hasn't been a superhero movie with, like, a story this good for me, because it's very character-driven. In a lot of Batman movies, the highlight is always on the villain and how the villain pushes Batman to act. And while that's the thing in this movie, you're spending so much time with Batman. He's in almost every scene.
Oh, yeah.
And notably, you're spending the time with Batman. Bruce is deliberately very muted in this movie because he is the mask that Batman puts on, and this movie shows that the best. He's like a weird kid who doesn't even go outside, has to put sunglasses when he goes to his living room because he spends all night in a fucking cave.
Super pasty.
He's pasty and weird and wears eyeliner. I think it's such a cool take on Bruce Wayne, but I think it's especially good because of what this movie says the future might be for this character.
Yeah.
The Bruce Wayne who's the philanthropist, who's the playboy, is the character who this character is going to become after he realizes that he needs to be better for Gotham, which the whole theme of the movie is that the Batman project is not working. They start the movie with like this very praised scene where it's showing the bat signal and how villains and like criminals in the streets are scared of it. But notably, like, Bruce starts with that monologue. It's like, I've been doing this for a year. Crime's worse than it's ever been. I have this signal. They're afraid of me. They think I'm in the shadows, but I am the shadows. But they think he's in the shadows, but note that none of the crimes are stopped by the signal. All the criminals get spooked, and then they still complete the crime and get away with it. Like the bank robber, the taggers who are tagging the buildings. Very deliberately, it's spooky, and they're like, ooh, is he over there? Like, it causes paranoia, but it's not stopping people yet. Because the point of the movie is that this plot for vengeance and this, like, embodiment of vengeance is not enough. You have to be a hero. And it's cool how the movie organically builds up to that. It's like, how, like, superhero movies have gotten so grand that, like, it really feels stripped down, where the movie's teaching the hero how to be a hero, and not in like they need to unlock their Captain Marvel powers, or like, he starts off in a place where he's saving people, but he's not really inspiring confidence or being the hero that Batman tends to be in a lot of stories. So it was very cool getting to that end point.
And he's not even like saving people. Like, there's the scene really early on where like he beats up like the Joker gang thugs.
Yeah.
And you get a clear indication that he did it less to save this guy and did it more to punish them for doing it.
Yeah. It's very important, because the first thing we see Batman do is beat up a bunch of dudes, and then the Asian guy on the floor is like, don't hurt me. He doesn't see them as a hero. He's a terrifying psychopath who's like, he might turn on me next. I don't know what his deal really is. The last thing you see in the movie pretty much is Batman carrying the Asian woman to the stretcher and she won't let go. She's so comforted by him, like carrying her, that she's like holding his hand, and it's like on a nice parallel to him, Alfred, and him holding hands. So like, they use that nice inversion of that first saving moment in that last one, and God, the movie's so well directed. I think about those shots all the time. The scene of Batman looking shitty and grimy, looking up into the sky in broad daylight, is something that sticks with me heavily. Like, that is such a cool imagery for what this kind of Batman is.
I just really liked. I think this is the best depiction of a Gotham that. To put it as Cosmonaut Marcus once said in his video, there probably is no other fucking solution than Batman for Gotham.
Yeah, they painted it with Gotham where it's like, yeah, he's their only hope when you get down to it.
Like, and I rewatched The Dark Knight after we saw this movie, and Dark Knight's still a very good film, but very much what I missed was the feeling of Gotham just being like a shitty place. Because you look at that movie and everything's like is clean and shiny and very pristine, and it's just hard to picture that as a place where a bunch of crime is going on, you know. But here, like, Gotham, like, feels like a cesspool. Like, it feels like just garbage has been poured into this city, and it's just filthy everywhere you go.
And so much of the movie's in dark and rain, you know, like it's so grimy. And also, like, Batman opens with the I am the shadows, but in the end of the movie, he's literally a leading light with the flare, leading people from darkness. It's like, it's so thematically rich and so well directed. Like, it's just a good fucking film, man.
While I was watching that scene, I was like, people aren't gonna get it. Yeah. I was like, even while I was liking it.
It's like, definitely the scene where it's like, this is a good movie, but that's the scene where it's like, oh no, I actually love this movie because, like, I've mentioned earlier this week, not on the podcast, but I like dark, grimy stories that trend upwards, and this is very much that kind of story.
I agree, and I think we also mentioned a few times in the podcast how, like, an ending doesn't necessarily make or break a story, an ending can make or break a story depending on how you write it and depending on how you're setting yourself up. Like Attack on Titan felt like it's very much set up on its ending. Or Game of Thrones, I think, is an even better example. Yeah. Game of Thrones very much is like, the ending to this is going to punctuate the point of this story, right?
Yeah, it's going to matter.
Yeah. And it failed to do so, why it kind of has now drifted into everyone's, like, back of the mind. Whereas I think in this movie, it really punctuated the point it was trying to get across at the end of this movie. Like, it's very much like, the point of being a hero and being Batman isn't just inciting vengeance or punishment on the wrongdoers, but it's also saving the people that can't save themselves. And that's what really Gotham needs, is for the people that can't do anything about their situation, for someone to come in and help them get out of it.
Which is why I think, like, the movie also made a point where it's like that mayor lady was like, hey, Bruce, like, would you like to talk about philanthropy at some point? You know, you have a lot of money. And it's like, Batman and next movie, I think really Bruce Wayne are both going to have to step up their game and actually save the city, especially because the city's in a worse place than it started, actually, literally, at the end of the movie. Hundreds dead, flooding everywhere. Like,
man,
Bruce Wayne can fix this with his money, and maybe Mr. Freeze gets in there a little bit, just freezes some of the water.
They've kind of set it up for, like, No Man's Land, which is an old comic arc for Batman, where, like, Gotham, like, literally, like, loses all power and electricity and is flooded, and it's just a wilderness.
The Dark Knight Rises.
Yeah, that's basically what Dark Knight Rises is too. And, like, but I think, like, the version of this Gotham would be much more interesting because it is just so shitty. And being able to, like, it's also like a come back to zero story, where it's just like, we're now lower than we've ever been, and we now have to get back to where we were so we can keep moving
forward. In the red. They're just trying to get back to zero, Joe.
Yeah.
Some of the like Selena got a lot of pushback from our friend group. I think it's very important that she's there as one of the three revenge stories. Like you got Batman's revenge story, and then Selena and the Riddlers. And by exploring those stories and solving those issues, Batman. It makes more sense that Batman realizes what he does at the end of the movie. It's like it all culminates to that moment. I will say the Selena Batman romance was pretty underdeveloped. It's just like, hey, we're both hot.
Yeah.
Sure, he sees like she's a go-getter, she's a bit of a vigilante, so they have a bit of that hobby together. But you know what I do like? There's a scene in the movie where they ride their bike for way too long. And I was like, that's the one scene I was shorten or cut. Someone turned me around on that because, like, someone pointed out that that's the one point in the movie where Batman is playing with someone. They're, like, playfully riding their bikes together, and then he has to ride away. Like, he finally gets to have some levity and play with someone, and then he has to abandon that immediately, which is pretty brutal.
This was just a movie where, I don't know. I'm really a sucker for movies or games or books where I'm just like, I really feel like the people making it cared.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which I think is great considering that when Robert Pattinson got announced as the next Batman, got a huge amount of pushback and everyone thought it was going to be ridiculous. And now I think he's like the coolest like action Batman we've seen on film. Like the choreography in The Dark Knight is just shit compared to this movie.
And like the Dark Knight's very gadget focused. And another cool thing, like there's moments in this movie where you see applications of like, oh, normally Batman would have a tool for this. He doesn't yet. Like there's such a cool room to grow. It really feels like they were confident that they were gonna get a second movie. And they're really setting the groundwork. They're not going too fast. Like he's not throwing batarangs yet. He just has the grapple gun and his good suit and his contact lenses. And it's gonna be cool to see his arsenal grow from there. Oh man, it makes me so excited for future movies.
And also, he's got the Batmobile. It is blue flame shit, which is all I've been missing.
So hype,
so good. Dude, and what's funny is like that was in the trailers, and I forgot that was there. So when it showed up again, I was like, "Oh my god, it's doing blue flames!"
The trailers didn't prepare you for all the theater also shaking. Like the sound design for the Batmobile was aces.
Yeah.
And lastly, I'll say the Riddler was excellent. I don't want to get too into it because we've been talking for a long time. I thought he was super fun. Bradley, you do a Riddler thing. You talk about him.
Man, he was just unhinged because I don't know. Sometimes the Riddler's kind of fucking weird in Batman media.
He's still weird in this, but in a more believable way.
Yeah, he's weird, but like in a human way. I don't know. I liked it.
It's very cool that like the motivation, it's like, hey, you know us orphans that we're actually going to benefit from the money that all these criminals are benefiting from? They're not even talking about us anymore because Bruce Wayne lost his parents.
Yeah.
It's like, shit, that's a really good point they never get into.
Like his breakdown when he was in Arkham, I was like, whoo.
It's a fantastic breakdown, and just like the good scenes from Breaking Bad, it's now a meme.
Yeah.
Good acting becomes a meme. That's just how it goes.
That's how it goes.
So I have a soft spot for the Riddler because the first ever Batman movie I watched was Batman Forever.
Yeah.
With Jim Carrey as the Riddler. And that's still like my guilty pleasure movie. Like I'll just throw that on when I'm having a sick day and watch it because it just makes me happy and gooey in the inside.
Gooey.
But I know it's bad, but it's so ridiculously fun. Anyways, so like whenever the Riddler shows up, I always get excited because he's like one of my like favorite Batman villains because of how silly he is. And I was really worried when I was watching the trailers for this that we're going to take the Riddler and make him just Joker B. Really?
Oh, yeah.
Actually, the trailers like got me hyped, but also very worried about Batman too. I thought this was going to be too edgy, and it almost like in the beginning it almost was a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
But I'm really glad that they had him do stupid Riddler jokes and was just like a huge nerd, but also like I think what they did for this character was phenomenal and great.
The Redditor angle was so good, where he's got like his deep web followers.
Yeah.
Hey
His
guys,
500 followers. We have less followers than the Riddler.
come on, guys, share the podcast with your friends,
comment, and subscribe,
or I'm gonna shoot up Gotham.
Yeah, but like I think I hate to say this, but like I feel like if Paul Dano died, people would be overly praising this Riddler and saying it's like a reinvention of the character, kind of like what the Joker was.
It really like Heath Ledger also killed it, but I think
Yeah.
Paul Dano has like a very comparably good performance.
I do too. I'm just saying that like I feel like Heath Ledger's performance in The Dark Knight got really blown up because he died like right before the movie came out.
I wouldn't detract. I think it's genuinely very good.
I still think it's really good. I'm saying that it's not giving as much praise as it should be getting.
Give it time. I think people will just look in this movie more fondly once the trilogy's done in general. You know?
Yeah,
It's
really
telling a full story, but also very much a setup movie, which I think is interesting.
Mm-hmm. But I really liked how the Riddler was done. I liked how all of the characters were done really in this movie. The only one that's maybe like a bit sad is Alfred is very little in this movie, and so you don't see a lot of him.
Yeah.
But like it kind of just assumes like you should know Batman really cares for Alfred, and that's kind of it.
Well, I also like how his relationship with Alfred's kind of shitty at the start. Like, Bruce hasn't, like, it was Alfred's life being put in danger really, I think, rearranged things for Bruce, which, you were mentioning Robert Pattinson got slammed for this role. He's definitely my favorite Batman now, in the live screen.
He was pretty fucking good.
Yeah.
And I think his Bruce Wayne's gonna show to, like, really be good. I like the direction they took.
I did too. I was really confused about it until the incel Redditor scene, and then it all kind of came around as to like that dark reflection of like who Bruce is and like what he could also be seen as.
Manga and anime and fiction love to do the "we're not so different, you and I," and then this movie comes out and does it well. And like, you know what?
And you know what they didn't do? Did they say "you're not so different, you and I"?
No. It's like it's just cooler. We're like,
yeah.
So yeah, a lot of like Riddler. It's hard to say if Riddler knew who Bruce Wayne was.
I don't think he did.
A lot points to no, and some things point to yes. Because I feel like the last line he says that is to throw off the people watching through the camera. Where he's like, we almost got him, right? So he's like torturing Bruce and then dropping that so he can keep working with his partner. He thinks Bruce Wayne's his partner. He's like the brawn to his brains, which I think is super cool take. But I think the easier reading is to say that he didn't quite know.
Yeah, and I think it also leads into delusion, right?
Yeah.
Like, oh, Batman's my best friend. That's why he keeps on doing all this stuff because he wants to find me.
Yeah,
like obviously they get it.
Yeah.
All right, Tyler, you can close us with Batman talk.
It's a Batman movie. That was my final opinion on it.
Tyler is the #1 Batman fan of the podcast, but not as much as Joe.
Yeah,
which that's a stupid thing. Tyler's is the #1 Batman fan.
He's the #1, except for the other fan.
Except for the actual #1.
The #0 fan, Joe, played Arkham Asylum in City. If you want to go through that quickly.
Yeah, I got sick, so I did every Batman thing ever. I did the trifecta. I did comics, the movies, and the games. Look at that, crazy man, Joe. I replayed Arkham Asylum and Arkham City, which are two of my favorite games. Arkham Asylum, especially, like I've probably played 10 times fully all the way through. I know I've perfected it twice. And playing it now after not playing it for so many years, Arkham Asylum has not aged as well as I thought it would. I think there's some it's just very clunky in its movement and its combat, and there's a lot of like thoughts there, but they just because of time, money, budget, whatever, they weren't fully developed. So it does definitely feel like a kind of like, I don't want to say MVP, but like a first game in like a series of games, like very much like the original Assassin's Creed. But like it's still really good. And it's just funny to think because like without this game, Arkham Asylum, like half of like adventure games or like third person adventure combat games would not have been made. Like Spider-Man would not exist without this game.
Absolutely, the influence is so direct.
Yeah, it's and I don't know, like this game series has been talked to death because it makes you feel like Batman, as the memes say, because it really does. Because you do all the you go into detective mode. You have to do the combat with the different thugs. There's even sequences where like you can't go into direct combat because there's a hostage situation going on, or they have more weapons than you, so you need to take them out in a strategic order so you don't get blasted. Like there's like the game, I think, does a really good job of just being the fantasy of becoming Batman. And I think it's a really good take on the Metroidvanias as well, because it's all about you going back to places after you get your gadgets to unlock new areas and find new secrets.
Especially Asylum is got a lot of Metroidvania DNA in it.
Yeah. It's just, and you know, it was just a good wave of nostalgia that hit. And then I played City, and City is much better from a technical standpoint of just like everything just feels better, like throwing batarangs, hitting people, sneaking around. You have a lot more options to overcome a lot of obstacles. So it's like, but also it's weird because after like watching the Batman and reading the Scott Snyder series run and rewatching the Dark Knight, like it's a weird thing to say, but none of the Batman stories so far like really like have scratched that Batman itch like the Batman did. Like, but I think that's because it showed me a very different view of Batman. Everything else seemed very pale in comparison, or very much like old.
It's because Batman doesn't genuinely get the character arc, and that's what made the Batman so interesting, is that he was a very flawed starting Batman.
Yeah.
Like, Batman in the games is super competent. Like, he's got the contingency plans.
Yeah, you need him to be so your players can feel powerful.
Yeah.
But I think these, like, I don't know. Like,
I think they're excellent, though.
Right.
I was just going to say, I think Bradley would really like these games. Maybe you might get frustrated at some of the 2009-ness, but I think the writing, like, I much prefer how this game is written to Spider-Man. Granted, I haven't gotten to that final act of Spider-Man that everyone loves.
Ooh, oh my god, I love that shit.
I think replaying it is, like, the game didn't hit me as hard as, like, Spider-Man did, for sure.
You know,
like,
I'm thinking more of Night. I think Night has excellent writing. Some people would be like, well, the twist is super predictable. But that aside, like, Arkham Knight has my favorite Joker, I think, in anything, which is crazy.
Yeah. I think Knight's use of Joker is one of the best uses of Joker ever. And I think that's the best part of Night.
Like, for context...
replay Night. But I think the grander story of Night is just too grandiose and just too wild to me. If I'm remembering, but like I haven't played Night in years.
I mean,
like
they took over the city, so it's like the whole city is the level.
That's,
that's like the most grandiose thing, and like, and Batman's kind of dying in that one, so it's like this is my final mission kind of vibe.
Yeah, but I think you're right there. I think like if I replayed it, I think those Joker segments I would appreciate them a lot more.
Like, for people who don't know how the Joker works, the Joker is not alive in Arkham Knight. He lives in Batman's psyche through a very powerful fear toxin by the Scarecrow.
It's kind of badass.
So the Joker is like a Tyler Durden, Johnny Silverhands from Cyberpunk 2077 kind of character, where like he's commenting on you, he's on the journey with you, and he fucks with you in really good ways. But then the way you defeat him is so cool. Do you remember how that goes, Joe?
Yeah, I do. I watch that clip every once in a while.
Just to feel something.
Yeah, really. I am the Knight.
Oh my god, it's so good. I'm your biggest fear, bitch.
Yeah. I'll probably play Arkham Knight later and we won't do a talk about it. But like I think those games, like, as Batman games, are as good as you're gonna get. Like, I can't fathom another way to play a Batman game, you know? And Gotham Knights is coming out, who did Batman Origin. And I like Batman Origin. I know a lot of people didn't really like it, but I did.
Never play that one.
It's that setup of the game is basically Bradley, is that Black Mask puts a hit on Batman for 10 assassins to come into the city to kill Batman. And so you were going around and you had to defeat all these different assassins.
The anime plot right there.
Yeah. And then it kind of goes off the rails and the Joker gets back into it somehow. And I think that's the biggest flaw it has. But I also think it's still pretty decently well done. And I really enjoyed it.
If you got Mark Hamill as the Joker, you gotta use him.
I mean, they didn't. They got Troy Baker.
Ah, shit.
Yeah.
Troy Baker is good in the Telltale Joker Batman games. Joker is really good in those games.
Joker and
John Doe.
I played both of those. I really like the Joker in that second Telltale Batman game.
The relationship he has with Bruce is excellent, surprisingly.
Yes. I would also recommend that in our Batman Power Hour podcast.
And while we're on the Batman Power Hour, I tried to watch the Lego Batman, but I downloaded a Spanish version and I wasn't feeling it. So I finally found the time. It's like, I'm turning it on. We're doing it. And then they're like, me llamo le Batman. And I was like, fuck. Anyways, out of Batman Zone, Tyler, why don't you tell us about Turning Red?
Ooh.
No,
Bradley has opinions too.
No, but you haven't talked in a while, so you gotta be the lead.
Yeah, you gotta get in. Gotta get in here.
Oh, y'all, they keep outdoing themselves again. This one's another banger.
What was the last Pixar movie?
What was the last?
Luca?
You know what? I didn't watch Luca.
Actually. I need to watch Luca. Let's watch Luca for next podcast.
Luca, okay.
But now it's turning red.
Dude, yeah, I thought this movie was fucking hilarious. I liked the music, and I was just surprised Pixar made the movie at all.
Yeah, the movie gets into themes that might be too adult for parents that shouldn't have children.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm glad you said that shouldn't have children part, because you're 100% right. Because you need to have these conversations with your child, because if you don't, that's how you get terrible
some
children.
parent was like, I was there with boys. Like, shut up. Just tell boys what a fucking...
Like boys should know too.
First of all your boys have seen 20 pussies on TikTok, so shut up. They know what vagina is.
My main thing about this movie is I really like the style that they do in it.
Oh my god.
This isn't like the style of a normal Pixar movie. This feels very much along the lines of
Mitchell.
Mitchell's versus the Machine Studio. Like they really did a lot.
It's not quite that art style. I think something about how they did the colors really, and like just the art design in general, really emulates that.
I think
they mix. It's like they really did like a 3D anime coming of age movie.
Yeah.
Because like they have the sparkle eyes and they do so many things like that animes do. Like they have the cash eyes at one point. All the girls have really quick, like really animated reactions. Like I know that's weird to say in an anime.
They move.
They throw them over the top.
They move and pose and stuff, and the girls get to be goofy. Like I like this movie because I think like after growing up, I'm like, people are too harsh on just stuff that teenage girls like in general, like Twilight and shit like that. Like I think we need to let teenage girls like what they like and not bully them about it. And I think this is a good movie that kind of encapsulates that.
They even have me in it being a little douchebag middle schooler.
Oh my god, Tyler!
Dude, here's something I like about this movie, all right? I've always really liked The Emperor's New Groove's pacing, right?
Yeah.
I'm not going to say movies should be paced like that. I'm just saying that is a style of pacing I enjoy.
Yeah, that's a style.
This movie I think is very similar, where I really like it, where I think the movie just goes. Like, I could see people not liking this, but I felt like there were 5 or 6 times in the movie where like the characters changed like what their objective was, and it kind of made me feel like I was watching like a mini season of a show, honestly.
You know what this movie makes me think of, Bradley? It's CGI Steven Universe.
Yeah, dude, when I was watching this movie, I said this is like it. It's like Steven Universe. I told like if you like Steven Universe and that style of like
in
just
like
dialogue comedy vibes,
in like both art and animation style, but also like dialogue and joke type. It's very much
exactly.
Y'all, how did they capture puberty in 3 minutes?
Which 3 minutes?
How did they visually show someone hitting puberty? Like,
where she transforms.
No, the part when the girl is like sitting there doing her homework. She's like doodling off on the side, and you just see that like jolt of energy. I'm like, oh my god, like that's it. That's how it is. Like that's the energy.
It's like she came to the realization that she can make anything happen in her little fan art drawings, and like she got so empowered for a second.
Oh, it's such a fun movie. I liked it. I liked it so much. I like immediately after I watched it, I was like, I would like to watch this again now.
I've watched it twice now.
I've watched it a couple times.
Because I missed some of it because it moves very fast. So actually, like I had to make sure I got everything. My favorite stretch of the movie is when they're being entrepreneurs about the abilities. That's definitely my favorite stretch. I'll say like. I didn't really care for any of the characters by the end. Like, I like Mei Ling. Mei Ling?
Yeah. I liked everybody.
I liked everybody. Like, this is a very women-centric focused cast.
And Willard does not like women.
But here's the thing. Here's the thing. Everybody's on beef about, like, the strong all-women cast mostly. And the dad in this movie, he gets the food porn scene.
Oh. Yeah. That was some Monster Hunter.
And he gets the moral choice scene.
Yeah. And it's like... And actually, the other character I really like is the mom. But I think every other side character was just a little underdeveloped and like under screen time is all, just because the movie's so quick.
That's primarily the friend group for me. Like I wanted more time of like the friends doing their own. I might have to rewatch it.
They montaged a lot of the stuff that I kind of wanted them to let breathe with the friend group.
Oh, it's like we watched. What was it? Madrigal movie this year? What was that?
So, okay, I wanted to ask you, like, this movie shits on what Encanto tried to be, and I was like, I don't agree at all.
Yeah.
So, like, Encanto feels like this movie, if you can't tell, Disney in general is turning away from very visual bad guys, where a lot of the problems are like about growing up or inner turmoil or family issues.
Very interesting.
I do too, but this movie doesn't make a caricature of the inner family problems. Like, this is a mom who loves her daughter a lot, and the daughter doesn't realize, like, and the mom and daughter don't realize the own pressure that they're putting on each other. And it's just such a nice, like, healthier resolution. And that's what I feel like Encanto, like, did, you know, like, where it's this communication issue that they don't realize is going on. I feel like is a caricature of this movie. And that's why I really feel like this movie blows that moral out of the water. Like, if you take away the growing up, yes, that is what the movie is about. But the growing up part is hard because of the pressure that you feel from your parents.
I'll go with you. They resolved this better. I mean, it's a kaiju battle, so it's not like the cleanest way to resolve it, but it's pretty fun.
Yeah, that, and it's like, I would say it's a lot more relatable for a lot more people.
But like, that's on a moral level, it's better. But I think Encanto is just the more fun and interesting movie. I love the characters in Encanto. Like,
I think
Disney hasn't hit me like that in maybe since I was a child.
I think also in Encanto, it's not only like the relationship between you and your grandparents. It's also the weight of your family's legacy on there. I think it's also really delves into more in Encanto and like how that feels to be put upon you. And that's in Turning Red, but it's not like the biggest issue. Like the biggest issue is the fact that the daughter is growing up in a completely different environment than the mom has grown up her entire life. And so they don't understand how each other wants to live. Whereas in Kanto, it's like this person doesn't meet the standards of everyone else before them, but they've grown up in the same situation. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Like,
I get that. I think that's a really good representation of it, you know?
I think they both make a very good companion piece. I think this is a very good 1-2 punch.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yo, I there's something about coming of age movies that I'm just like, yo, that hits, you know?
That makes
that takes me back.
It was like the wholesome Big Mouth.
There's something that made me laugh my fucking ass off because it's something that would have had to happen off screen, but it happened. I'm telling you.
Oh
no. So one of my favorite parts of the movie is when the mom transforms and they're holding her down in the state. She attacks the stadium. Everyone evacuates. It's fucking cool. They hold her down and they start doing their chant, and it's like a cool moment where it's like she's doing the chant, but then her friends come in and they start beatboxing, and I'm like, oh, that's cool. It's like her friends are getting in on it, and then very hype moment, the boy band does their reprise of their song, which is hype as fuck. He hits the highest note ever. I love it. But what's funny is the kaiju attacked the stadium, right? And everybody evacuated. And for 1 or 2 minutes, we don't see anybody else except the people trying to do the ritual. What I like is that the boy band didn't have to do this. Like, obviously her friends are her friends and they want to go in and help her, but the boy band had to be like, guys, I don't know what the fuck is happening in that stadium, but we need to go in there and we gotta sing.
You have to finish. You have to finish your set, Bradley.
Well, the thing is, like,
the ritual master does yell, "Sing louder."
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just like, that's how I imagine it going down.
I thought you were going to talk about the off-screening where Mei Lee will now have to deal with furries. I mean, she's a furry herself, but like...
Dude, at the end of the movie, I was like, you don't have to hybrid it. You can choose one or the other.
Yeah, at the end of the movie, I was like... Y'all, at the end of the movie, when she has the ears and the tail, I was like, y'all didn't have to do that.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm glad they did, because on Reddit, that kid who was afraid to like Incineroar because kids are too harsh on furries. Yeah. I think this movie needs to normalize furries. I said it. I think
we're the fire.
Here's the thing. I think they need to normalize kids fantasizing being animals that are cool. Like, if you really like dinosaurs, that's cool. Like, dress up as T-Rex. But
yeah, but some high schooler is going to fuck her because she has a tail. Like,
that is.
I mean, all she needs to do is just utilize it when she wants to.
No, empowerment, yes. Four men talking about the empowerment of using your furry tail as a woman.
Pixar's new furry empowerment movie.
I think that's where we should round it up.
Yeah. Tyler, give us a going away quickie discussion question.
All right.
Look.
Say your daughters.
If you had to be a hybrid animal, like in Turning Red, which one would be your spirit animal?
Okay, so here's the thing.
Can I pick a sun god, Tyler, or no?
I said, what would be your spirit animal?
Oh, fine.
I want to be like a monkey boy, like Sun Wukong.
Hey,
Joe.
Man, I don't know. I would say a dog, but that's too wolf. And
your spirit animal is Iguanodon.
Yeah,
Iguanodon.
Ew.
What? Why?
Bradley doesn't know.
What? Bradley knows Iguanodon. He was there the first time.
No, he wasn't.
He was there for the first time.
The first time we did the dinosaur ride, and it goes Iguanodon. Bradley knows.
No, Bradley was sick that day.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Holy shit, he doesn't know Iguanodon.
Oh, I guess I don't. Yeah, because I was sick in the room for whatever the fuck y'all are talking about.
Basically, when you do the dinosaur ride, there's a part where it stops and it goes Iguanodon, and it became. See, you could see why we would like it.
Yeah, I can tell, like, probably just from the voice.
Well, they also didn't say is that I do this. I didn't mean to do it the last time we did it, but I will just recite the entirety of that ride as we're going on it. And we got to the end of the ride, and I just looked at both of them and went, Iguanodon.
It became more of a thing last time where we went with Kelly.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it has the wonderful energy. I would be a rhinoceros beetle. Because they can lift 850 times their size. So from my size, I could lift multiple hundreds of thousands of tons or something.
Plus, it also looks like you're wearing like cool power armor whenever you transform.
Oh, dude, I'm a Beetleborg.
Yeah.
I would just have a shitty thumb as I do right now.
Oh yes.
I would want to be an octopus.
Not a red panda.
Tyler, what are you gonna do with that? Explain to the class.
Don't worry about it.
Hey, Bradley, that's like over 8 armpits. So
Man,
think about that. All right, thank you for joining us, everyone. We'll catch y'all. Hopefully not next month. Hopefully it'll be sooner than that. But who knows? Life's wild.
who knows?
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.